Today I'm going to talk about tips for budgeting when you've never budgeted before. If you're new here, my name is Alicia and I live outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And today we're going to focus on getting started with a budget. So, my story, in case you want to know, is when I first became an adult, I did not budget and I didn't know where my money went. I knew nothing. And then through some unfortunate circumstances, my mother uh, put her foot down basically, and so if I didn't get a budget done, I was getting kicked out. So these are things that I've done myself, and some ideas of things that I have not done, but I know work for other people to get you started. So just to let you know that I've been there before, where I didn't know where to start and I had to figure it out somehow. Disclaimer: I am not a financial person. I am not a CPA. I don't I don't do any of that professionally. These are just things that have worked for me, and like I said, work for other people. So it may work for you too. Um, and budgeting is just like anything else. It's a system, and so one person's system may not work for you, and another person's system will. And it's okay if you don't like my system. Go find something that will work for you. The whole point at the end of the day is to make sure you know what money is coming in and you know what money is coming out, and you know how to work around what you need to do so that you're not constantly in debt and trying to better yourself, basically. That's the whole point of having a budget, period. So whatever system's going to work for you, I am happy with whatever works for you. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure you know exactly how much money is coming into your home or into your bank account, however you get paid. All of us have different ways that we get paid, so it's not going to be a one size fits all. But the whole point is that you want to make sure you know on average what's coming in, because sometimes our months look a little bit different. And doing a there's two different ways that you can approach this. You've got the budget where you're making, especially if you have like an inconsistent income and you're doing it like an average, you are probably going to have to take a couple months to do this, honestly. So if you have static, you know how much you're making, your paycheck is pretty much the same every single time you get paid. You're going to take that data and you're going to, however you want to do it, piece of paper, Excel, um, whatever you want to know how much for the whole month you are actually bringing in. If you have an inconsistent income, you need to average that out. If you have enough data to go back a couple months to figure out what your income was on average, you can start with that number. But the most important thing is you need to know how much money is coming in. After that, what you want to do is write down every single bill that you've got, every single bill, utility, subscription, Patreon. Um, what else is there? I think I said utility. Any of that stuff. You want to write it down. Anything that you know you're paying on every single month, and anything that you know you signed up for, that's every single month. Hulu, streaming, any of that stuff. YouTube Premiere, whatever it's called, any of that. Write it all down. After that, what you want to do is start subtracting. So you're going to take the number that was your income, and then you're going to take every single bill, every single utility, every single thing that you know you're paying on, and subtract that from that main income, and then see what you have left. And I didn't mention, but if you also have like a consistent medical copay or prescriptions, add that in as well, because that's part of what is considered a bill at this point. Now, at this stage in the game, even if you have things that come out at different times of the month, this is just a quick and dirty of you knowing where your money is and what the flow is. So if you've got a bill or something that is on the 5th, and then you've got another one that's on the 15th or another one that's on the 21st, right now in this stage, we're just adding that to our our initial budget. We're not figuring out, biweekly what's going where. That's not the point of what we're doing right now. Right now, we just want to know how much we're making, how much is coming out, and what we have left before we start playing around with what's going where. Okay, so now you've deducted all of the stuff that is considered important. We haven't talked about fast food. We haven't talked about sweet treats. Um, I forgot to talk about groceries. Groceries definitely fall into that bill, but you want to average that out too, because that stuff isn't going to be a consistent number as well. So say you go to the grocery store 3 times a month and you're spending somewhere between 100 and 200, take the higher number of that and deduct it from your monthly, because at least then, even with the fluctuations, you're still going to fall under a safe area when it comes to your money. So I'm sorry I forgot to mention that before, because that is definitely considered a bill. So what happens if you have anything left after you've deducted everything? Well, you can take that money, and depending on how much you have left, if you have like $5 left, what I would do, and what I still do to this day, is create a buffer in my checking account. So what that means is I don't count that money anymore. It doesn't exist. It just sits in the bank account. Okay. Because what you want to do, and the goal of creating a buffer is, for instance, if you always end up having like $10 left at the end of the month or something like that, and you don't count it for the next month, it's going to build up. So that way, if you have an emergency, then, or something happens and, like, something costs a little bit more than you thought it did that you had budgeted for, um, that buffer takes care of that, so you don't end up in an overdraft. Because I've been in the overdraft world too, so I understand how that's like. So that's what the buffer is for. Your buffer can be anything you want it to be. It could be a $10 buffer. You can make it a $100 buffer. You can make it a $500 buffer, but it's not an emergency fund. It's a, oh crap, I did not account for that type of thing, type of fund. So that's why you don't count that in your regular budget. That's if you have, like, little bits and pieces at the end of the month. If you've got a substantial amount of money, and when I say substantial, that's vague, right? So if you're looking at the end of the month, everything's paid for, and you've got $50 left, or you've got $100 left, or you've got a couple $100 left. Well, now you can play with it a little bit. If you got like $50 left, again, do a buffer. But what you might want to do, sorry for stumbling. What you might want to do at that point, if you've got like $50 left, is take half of that, make it your buffer, and then treat yourself with the other 25, because that's play money essentially at that point. If you're looking at like 100 or a couple hundred, now you got to think, okay, what can I use this for? Yeah, the first thing is, oh, I want to play money, have play money, and you can do that. But what I would suggest doing at that point, if you haven't already started investing, I don't know how old you're going to be when you're watching this, but if you haven't started investing, that would be a great way to start going, okay, how much money can I take out of my check if you work at a job that's got a 401k or stock options or something like that? I highly suggest doing those things, because usually you get deductions, not deductions, a reduced rate, or with 401ks, you hopefully get a match. Some places go up to 6%. Um, take a little bit of that play money, if you know it's a consistent $100 or more every single month, and have them take $20 out for your 401k, and then you still have some money left over for your buffer, and to go get yourself a sweet treat, if that makes sense. If you've got a couple $100, same thing. Start looking at where you can invest. If you drop those to 401k, or if you do stock options. Um, if you haven't done a Roth or a traditional IRA, start looking at that type of thing. Uh, and you can always start small. When I started my IRAs, this is something important to realize, because I know that some of you are probably thinking, I have no money to do anything. I can't even, do XYZ. And I get that, because there was a point in time I worked 3 jobs and went to school, and I was a single mother. I I to this day cannot figure out how I had the energy to do any of that. Okay. 2 of them were full-time jobs. One of them was I cleaned somebody's house once a week, but it was still considered a job. Okay. Went to school once a week. It was 2 hours, and I had my kid. Okay. So, but I knew enough to know, okay, yeah, life sucks. Yeah, clearly I have no money if I'm working 3 jobs, right? Um, but I was also working at a job that had stock options and 401k. So I decided, even if it was just a few dollars, this is what I'm saying, if it's just a few dollars, get the ball rolling, especially if you're in your early 20s. Get the ball rolling, because you're going to have compound. It's going to compound as you get older, which is important, because especially if you live in the US, do you really think there's going to be, the way things are right now, and I don't want to get too political, but do you really think there's going to be anything for you when you're old? Do you? And it is not your children's job to take care of you when you're older. You need to be taking care of yourself as much as you can and figure out your stuff as much as you can. So even if it's just $10, you know, or the stock option thing or whatever, do that. Okay, because you're already hurting anyway. Okay, but if you can do it, please, for the love of God, do that. Now, if you have an inconsistent income, I mean, most of these rules are still going to apply, right? In the instance where you have $50 left or a couple $100 left, whatever, you still want to do the same thing, but it's going to be a little bit more of a headache on your part because you're not going through a job to do it, right? Unless your job that's inconsistent income has that ability, which at that point it's kind of hit or miss. You can always find like a brokerage or something and go through it that way. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what types of things to look for. I just know that that's something that you would like to that you should do just to get yourself started because you got to take care of yourself as much as you can. So what about if you break even at the end of your budget and you've got nothing left, no sweet treats, no nothing, you're using credit cards to pay for all your stuff because you just don't have the cash. I've been there too. Listen, I'm not telling you anything I have not had the t-shirt for. I'm telling you, I've had experience in just about all of this. So I understand to a degree everything that I'm telling you right now. So what happens if you break even and you have nothing and you're relying on your credit cards? You need to really look at what you can cut back. You've got to really look at what's a need and what's a want. Um, Subscription services as far as like streaming, I mean, that's why we have YouTube. YouTube is a new TV. Okay. I'm not going to tell you what to do with YouTube as far as whether or not you want to pay, because, yeah, that could get me in trouble. But I think you know where I'm going with that. So, YouTube is a new TV. So, if you have to take a hit 5, 6, 7 months to a year and not have streaming, and that's going to put $20 to $50 or more in your bank account per month, um, to pay off some of your debt, please do it. Because the thing is that you can just be suffering now and have a better life later, or you could just suffer continuously until the day you die. I'm sure there's some nuance in there somewhere. But really, when me and my husband got married, he was coming off, well, he wasn't even coming off bankruptcy. He just started a bankruptcy. Okay. So everything was on me. So I know where that's going too, as far as like debt and things like that. And we sacrificed. Like every single meal was scratch, okay? And I actually did that up and even when we get started to feel a little bit more comfortable. Every single meal was scratch. There was no streaming. There was none of that stuff. I worked third shift just so that we wouldn't have to pay for childcare because childcare is that's crazy in itself. And I know not everybody can do third shift. I get that. That's just something that we did to work around having to pay for things. But you really have to look at what's a need and what's a want and take the hit because it will pay off later. I promise it will. But that's something that you just have to do. And as far as groceries are concerned, I know there's a lot of people who don't know how to cook, and so their main source of food is going out to eat. I literally know somebody who is like this. Um, but they're also in a place where they don't really have to worry too much about um, I'm not gonna say they're comfortable, but they don't have to worry about the fact that all their food is from restaurants. But my point is with groceries is that if you are spending a whole lot of money on going out to eat because whatever reason you're too busy, too tired, um, you're caretaking and you just don't have the energy, blah blah blah. Not a lot of people are going to say this, but it's cheaper to go to the grocery store and get frozen meals than it is to go to a fast food restaurant or to go to a sit down restaurant. It's cheaper. So if you are definitely, I am anti cooking, go that route because as far as the health standard is concerned, it's the same. You're just saving money. And even if you get like the really nice frozen foods out there that are like microwavable, um, whatever, from the grocery store specifically, it's still going to come out cheaper. I would not recommend those ones where you order it online. I'm trying not to use brand names, but like the food already comes prepared and is sent to your door, or like you put the potatoes and the carrots together and you make yourself a little meal. That's way too freaking expensive, and the markup on that is freaking crazy. Like every time I see those and I see that it comes out to about $15 a meal, I'm like, okay, so what's in that? Potatoes and carrots. Well, potatoes and carrots are cheap. Even though they've gone up in price, they're still cheap. So you got a four times markup on some potatoes and carrots that's in this meal that someone's paying $15, $20 a meal for. Like, why? Why? That's not saving you. That's helping them. But like I said, if you're in that position where like you just can't cook for whatever reason, that's a good option instead of going out to eat for sit down restaurants or fast food. Okay, finally, if you're in a position where you're in the red and you've got more stuff going out than what's coming in, I hate to pull the Dave Ramsey on you, but you may have an income problem. And I know that's going to fall into a whole bunch of categories. You got disability, you've got whatever else going on, but at the end of the day, it's an income problem. Been there too. Like I said, I'm not talking about anything I haven't done before. You may want to think about maybe if you can, and I do actually know somebody who's done this because they're actually in that boat. She does this for people, and they pay her cash, and that takes care of things that she can't have on paper. There are ways around things. Everything has a loophole. So if you find yourself having an income problem, think about what skills you have that you can do, that you can trade or have like people paying you cash for, things like that. Because there's always a solution. The thing is that we have to spend some time thinking outside the box. Um, YouTube is a good source for trying to find some of those things, as far as like, because I'm sure there's a video out there that will tell you side hustles, that you can do that will pay you cash for whatever skills you have. So that's something to think about. Um, like if I were to put myself in that position today, making blankets, baby blankets, hats, scarves, etc., especially around holidays, birthdays, things like that, that would put some extra cash, you know, not that it's going to be a whole lot of cash, mind you, but that's a thing that if you have that skill that you can do, that wouldn't be on paper. Um, what else? If you've got accounting skills, if you've got medical coding skills, things like that, see what kind of skills you have, especially if you're um, bound to like having to sit because like you don't have a lot of movement. I'm sure there's computer things that you can do. You just have to think outside the box to try to bring in that extra income to work on chipping away at some of that debt if it's a debt problem. If it's not a debt problem, you're just doing the best you can. It's still, what can you do to try to add some income in so you're not constantly in the red? So those are my suggestions. It's not great, but unfortunately, that's the state of the world that we're living in right now. Is that we have to think about these things and thinking outside the box and how we can keep getting ahead. And it's just a roller coaster, and it's exhausting. I know it's exhausting. I get it. Trust me. So you've made the list, you've done the budget, you've figured out where all your money is. How do you stay consistent with all this? Well, if you are naturally techie, you may want to try some apps. I know that I'll try to find some and put it on the screen. I know that there's a few apps out there that are supposed to be good for helping you with your budget. I am not an app person, so I cannot suggest one for you, but I will try to find that information and put it on the screen for you, and I'll try to list those down below. Another thing you could do if you're more of an analog person like I am, you can have a ledger, notebook, planner, anything that you're keeping your numbers in place so you know what's going on every single month. For instance, for me, my husband hates the way I do my budget. It's all in here, but the numbers are written down. So say I've got I start out, these are just numbers I'm throwing out. Say I've got $1,000, right? And then I've got $800 in bills that are coming out. I put 1,000, 800, 200. Okay. then it just sits like that, and if I have anything that I'm gonna, like, sweet treat or whatever after that, I'll deduct it. I don't put names under any of that stuff, just the numbers are there. Sometimes if I think it's gonna be something I'll forget, it's not a consistent thing, I might put, like, a name on it or something, or, like, CC for credit card payment or whatever, and then the income will come in underneath that, and then I'll redo the number, and it's just this long list of numbers with no names. He can't stand it. He's an Excel guy. He's very techy. He does everything by Excel. So we do our budgets separate, but that's what works for us. And that's you got to find a system that works for you. So, like I said, if you're more analog, ledgers, paper, whatever, as long as you've got it in the same spot every single time and you don't lose it, it's not on scrap pieces of paper that are all over the place. You got to have it in one spot and then you have to keep looking at it. So every single time you get paid, that's when you go to the budget and you go, okay, what do I have right now? Right. And then take everything out that's coming out for that pay period. Because, like I said earlier in the video, we've got things that are coming out here and here and here, different times of the month or whatever. And for that initial budget, we're not worrying about that. But when you start doing your monthly budget for realsies, that's when you want to start doing it by pay periods so that you're staying on top of it, if that makes sense. If you have questions about anything I'm saying, please leave it down below because I know that sometimes my thoughts don't get across very as clearly as I think they would. So please don't hesitate. Just don't be mean in the comments because I might roast you. I don't know. Then there's the envelope cash method. I don't particularly like this one just because it doesn't vibe with me at all. But I do know that it works for some people. So if you're in a situation where you like to use cash, then that's something that you can work on. Every single envelope goes to different things that you know that you pay every single month. Um, and then that way you feel the money leaving you. I think it's more of a feeling type of thing for people who like to use that method. Um, like you can just, I don't know, I guess it just hits you in the gut or something when you're giving somebody $100 as opposed to just using a card or something. And I can kind of see the psychological effects of that. It's not something that um, works for me because I don't like giving people money, period. So and I don't like owing people money. So I any so I don't you really use the cash method, but that's another method that you can use. But the same thing, you've got all the money that you're using or coming in at that time, and then everything that's going out is going into every single envelope. To end this video, I just want to let you know that it's never too late to get started on a budget, whether you're 15, 20, 40, 60. It's always a good idea to know how much money you're bringing in and how much is going out, and then trying to figure out where you can do in between all of that as far as getting yourself that sweet treat or, you know, getting out of debt or putting something in retirement. It's never too late as long as you start. And that's the important thing is starting. So if anything in this video resonated with you, please give it a like and think about subscribing. And I will see you in the future with more budgeting videos. Thank you for watching. Bye.